Welcome to the Mucked Up My Self-Care podcast.
I'm Jill from New York.
And I'm Linda from Tasmania.
We are two moms from opposite sides of the world who are living, demonstrating, and helping moms across the world build their self-care asset bank.
Ready to dive in? Messy, interrupted, imperfect, and most of all mucked up. Let's get going. And we're back.
Hi.
Another week. Hi.
Oh, speaking of hi, what is your hi, Linda? Or she want me
I think my high is a really simple one. I found some Easter chocolate that the kids hadn't found after they did the Easter hunt. And so I was completely out because we're having a bit of a time at the moment with snacks in the house and the kids just gobbling them up in 2 seconds. And so we haven't had chocolate really in the house. And I found them and it was so good. It was so creamy and milky and just exactly what I needed. But my low would have to be I put a roast in the oven after dinner because I got home a bit late and didn't have time to cook it for dinner and it needed to be cooked today. And while putting Quinn to bed, it smoked up the house somehow. There was something else, another tray in the oven that hadn't been cleaned by somebody else. And so it was very smoky in the whole house.
Oh,
it didn't burn. It just, this tray happened to. So anyhow.
I did that the other day with bacon. The whole house was like, and I haze, and I'm like, oh, I didn't realize. I gotta open some windows.
Yes, so it was a bit cold to open windows, but that's okay.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm gonna start with my low. I feel like we have had, okay, so I'm realizing now this is what the issue is. We're 2 months out from Declan's birthday. And there's like
already? I feel like you just had one.
I mean, it's June, so towards the end of April will be like the 2-month mark. But this starts the time of his transition into the next age. And he's always like super tantrumy and cranky and like yes. And yeah, he hasn't been listening when we tell him to stop doing something, like running away from us in a parking lot. Or
scary.
Yeah, a few other things. So it's been a little frustrating on dealing with him running away from us, and I might just need to go get one of those backpack leashes and just be done with it. Because he's not listening. So there's been that, and I'm now just realizing with the time frame that this is probably that transition phase that we're going through before he turns 4. So I just need to be a little bit more mindful of what he's going through transition-wise now. Yeah. Whatever.
Oh, I feel you.
We'll get through it.
Yeah.
My high is that my husband and I actually had a really good couple of days, communication-wise, intimacy-wise, like just working well together as parents and bouncing off each other, everything. That has just been a really good flow the last couple of days. So getting that feedback from him has been helpful in me continuing to be good at being a human. I feel like that's what it comes down to, is how good
being just a better person.
Yeah. Which I think tells a lot to where everything about us as humans has grown since we started our journey in this our adventure in this podcast together.
Yeah. So when you think about that, what are some of your most memorable episodes? There's been a few.
There's been so many, and we're gonna.
I'm like,
Oh
which
my
was that?
God.
Which was that one that we just couldn't stop laughing? Or like, which was that one that where
We
we
should have
just
taken notes about it. There was one that we couldn't stop laughing, and then there's one that our conversation just went on so well that we talked.
yeah.
Like it was. I think our validation episode was one of my most enjoyable.
I really liked the rage vacuuming one.
I was gonna say, I think that was the one that we were laughing a lot.
There have been so many. I'm trying to look down the list really quickly.
Yeah, I really like that we did an episode for each of us with our top 5 activities that we like, because I mean that helps me recognize the growth in where we were in episode 1 to, oh my gosh, episode 42 and 43. Like, wow.
Yeah. There was also one, I think, where you got on your soapbox a little bit as well. The outspoken self-care one was great for me to watch you.
Oh, thank you.
In that, because it's just been really good to watch your conversation stuff happen as well. Yeah.
Trying to think of what else. Yeah, I enjoyed our Super Mama one too, because I know how you feel about that, and that really got our conversation sparked in there. And what society brings us up to be like with self-care, and how we can shake things up and not go that route.
Yeah. So many fun times.
Good
one. So for you personally, what are some ways that you think that you've grown since our earlier episodes? And I'll be right back.
Yeah. I think it was our wisdom episode. I gotta even see which one that one was, because that one opened my eyes to our growth. Walking in the wisdom of self-care, which was episode 22. Like, first off, I think running into that episode, I didn't even realize like what the definition of wisdom was. And without even realizing, I went ahead and said all the fun things that really like gave me the confidence in knowing that there is wisdom now in self-care that I have on how to do it right. So, yeah, for me, where I'm noticing the growth is that I actually have wisdom in what works for me as self-care, and the confidence now that I have in it. But also being able to shift how I talk about it for the people in my family as well, and label things for them to bring awareness to Declan that he's actually doing a form of self-care, or even my husband that, that's your self-care. So go ahead and you go do that. But there's a lot of wisdom that comes with that growth, which I really appreciate us being able to recognize. How has your growth been, and what are you recognizing it with it?
I think for me, a big thing has been the acceptance of it, and also the confidence, but just accepting the fact that, sometimes self-care is really mucked up, and sometimes it's with 4 kids in tow, or with not having a shower for a few days, or with all sorts of other things that mean we don't have to have it perfect, and we don't have to think that we need to live up to some sort of guidelines or expectations. And it's okay to muck it up rather than get it right. That's been a big part of I think the growth since those earlier episodes, the confidence is a big one, like having the in momentum and motivation to make sure self-care happens and seeing the after effects of that. So knowing that there's the growth, if you like, after self-care and the more energized feelings as well. I don't think I had started at the gym in our early episodes either. That didn't sort of start till about November. So that was really great to watch that and be part of that together. A big part of, I think, how our self-care has grown since those earlier episodes is also just our relationship and our ways in which we communicate or find our flow or just bounce off each other in order to do that. So I like that too.
Cool. I like it. I think being able to have conversations around self-care at all, it's huge evidence of growth. Because where else would we be talking about it if we weren't talking about it together here? I know it would not help me advocate out loud for it and be able to add that into my mission for helping moms through Mama Outspoken. I know on your end, from what I can see, is that it's helped you be more diligent and devoted to your priorities and on your calendaring and really figuring out, well, when is this going to work best for what's on your schedule? Because especially with time changes, us being on opposite sides of the world, 2 different daylight saving shifts and time zone differences between everybody in the community that we are belonging to. We've had to shift our calendars to even record at the same time, especially being able to show up for the clubhouse room that we have together. Like, that alone and knowing how we can shift our calendar around what we are committing to is the evidence, I think, that we both have grown, not just for the commitment of this podcast recordings time that we have, but also for your time at the gym, for my time with Declan, for your time taking walks and getting out of the house for work and all that that goes into that goes into surrounding our time for self-care and what we have going on.
Yeah. And part of that's that acknowledgement, isn't it, of ourselves and our growth and each other as well. And as we said, I think recently, just being able to sit back and reflect and realize that there has been this shift and there has been a transition and there has been and will continue to be more mucking up all along the way. Like we don't just stop mucking up.
It's not about getting self-care right. It's about just doing it so you can get a little bit more energy back, a little bit of your cup filled, more joy. Because when you said that, it made me realize that that's probably one of the biggest lessons I learned this year, was that things don't have to come, like, along with our priorities. I figured, Declan comes home from school and that's now Declan and family time, and working in those times don't always work. So even self-care in those times don't always work. So when I'm in the moment of being frustrated because it's not going the way I envisioned it to go, I stop and I give in to, usually it's Declan. That's helping muck it up. And just say, forget it. Let's just be in the moment with what's going on here. And it's not what I thought was going to be, but it still ends up being what I probably needed in that moment to shake it off and let his attention be where I put my energy, because it might actually be what's going to give me energy back too.
Yeah, that's so true. And I know, Jill, we've talked about a little bit of your journey through that and getting it out into the world. As far as your writing and becoming a published author and all that sort of stuff, that's been a huge growth as well, I think, alongside these episodes. You were talking about my gym stuff, but that writing component has been fueled a lot, I think, by your own self-care.
Yeah. And the first book that came out, which was just my chapter, which is the story behind the story, was written before we even started the podcast. And then my book of the full story was written when we started the podcast. So I spent my day on Mother's Day last year writing the first 2 chapters of the book. And if I had not set aside the time for self-care on Mother's Day specifically, I don't think that I would have gotten those chapters written. Needless to say, the form, the route the book took with all that it's shared of my story probably would have been impacted differently if we didn't have these conversations along the way.
So proud. Yep. Yeah. Oh, goodness.
Otherwise, there wouldn't have been a healing journey that I'm on.
Said no one ever. Nobody is. Yeah. Nobody can escape the healing journey, whether they accept it or deny it or everything else and in between. It's part of the human experience, existence. Yeah. So if you haven't had a chance to go back to some of those favorites, we might list them out in the notes today. What do you reckon?
Yeah.
Just some links to some of those old ones, old faves. And since then, since our earlier episodes, we've also put together a bit of a list of things that have worked for us and things that we really feel benefit others who may be in a similar situation or really looking to extend their self-care as well beyond these podcast episodes. So we would love you to reach out to us at muckedupmyselfcarepodcast@gmail.com, and we can share our list and shoot through the ideas. If you have any
conversation
about all those sort of things. But yeah, we'd really love to hear from you. That sounds
definitely
great.
And from that list, we'd like to tell you out loud one of the things that I think we both started out with too is stretching, and
don't underestimate it.
Yeah, it is definitely a way for growth, I think. It's helped us in various ways of just getting our bodies moving the tiniest bit, because I know how hard it is to do in the beginning to jump into a workout flow, because I know I don't like doing that. So I'll start off with a stretch for a few days before getting into a routine, and it helps you relax at the end of the night or start your morning well or recover from an extraneous workout that you might have done.
Yes.
Whether it's lifting weights or toddlers, I don't know.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
If you are looking for some place to start, maybe today is where you start with stretching.
Yeah, exactly. And let us know how you go as well. Mm.
Until next week, then, Linda.
Yes, indeed. We hope you can unstuck your muck.
Bye.